Drea, how did you even get so dedicated? Is what I was asked. Then I was told, girl, you got to tell your story, you know? And I'm like, okay, what parts of my story? Because, man, I got some stories, you know? And where do I even begin? Starting when I was about 14 years old, you know? 14 years old, I found myself in a situation where I needed a place to stay. My mother was in a coma. She was in a coma at the hospital for about 8 months. My dad was strung out. Where we were staying was this apartment complex. And one day I went with my friends to go grab some things because, you know, with no parental guidance, I mean, what are you doing as a teenager, a preteen, right? You're out there wilding out, having a good time, freedom. No parent to tell you what to do, you know. So, you know, I'm out there with my friends. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me grab some things from the house. I shoot over to the house or apartment. And there's this big notice on the door and everything's locked up. You've been evicted, you know. And so I'm like, dang. So what we do, we break in, you know, grab our things. The friend that I'm with, you know, we decide to go to her place. Same thing with her. What happens is in that type of environment, that's a common thing. You know, you don't get crazy shocked. It's more of just kind of a rock in the road, you know, a little hole in the road. It kind of deters you a little bit or takes you on another course. But, I mean, it doesn't stop you, right? At this time, I ended up staying at different friends' homes, finding out these people really weren't my friends. There's altercations. You got to fight for your livelihood, you know, protect yourself, or, you know, people trying to take advantage of you, or, you know, these are some of the things that happen in that environment, right? And so then, you know, you get a little bit of an edge to you, you know, you got to protect yourself. You know, there's no joy in your life as far as in the simple things, you know, you're really having to survive. And I found myself at that time starving, you know, watching somebody eating some fried chicken when they just came up out of KFC, and, you know, they eating that chicken bone, didn't quite finish the meat off the bone, and you're looking at that bone and you're thinking to yourself, for real? I'm over here ready to tear up and suck on that bone from somebody I don't even know who just ate that chicken, and you're like, yo, this is not okay. The circumstances are what they are, you know, but you're checking yourself in those thoughts of like, man, I have got to figure something out. Like, I can't live like this forever. This is unacceptable, you know? And so you start doing things that you need to do to survive. And I ended up finding myself walking miles. Oh, I mean miles, like from a city to a city. And it would be late at night when I'd be walking, you know. I remember looking at the ground and just every step I made and the cracks and the things that were in the side of the dirt and the gutted, and just thinking to myself, like, this isn't going to be my life forever, you know. And I'm like, I got to figure some stuff out. I remember I finally got to the destination where I was walking, crashed out, was able to lay on the couch, and woke up in the morning and was like, okay, I'm gonna figure some stuff out. Went to the Jack in the Box, you know, got a job, ended up, you know, before I was a little young, so they, you know, there was a lot of like parental information they needed, and my parents weren't really around at that time to help me out on that. And so I ended up going ahead and getting that job, lied on my, you know, what my age was. And I just had my Social Security card at the time. And so they were like really cool about, you know, giving me the job. And then, you know, eventually I ended up finding out I was pregnant where I was living. And this particular place I ended up living was a dope house. Now, don't let the term freak you out. It's just a place where drug addicts tend to live, and it's not necessarily like an abandoned building where they smoking crack, like a New Jack City type of environment, but it definitely isn't a good environment. And the lady, Miss Gloria, oh, I love her. She's an old woman, and her son happened to be a drug addict. And, that's life, right? Because drugs don't discriminate on your economic class, nor your education, nor, your gender or your race. Just drugs are just foul altogether, right? And so her son ended up on drugs. And so a lot of his friends started hanging out. Matter of fact, one of his friends was my dad. And so my dad kind of made an arrangement so that I could stay there, which was really cool. So I started living there, and I ended up getting pregnant. I was 17 years old at this time. And, oh, man, I thought to myself, oh, baby, I do not want this life for her or him, And I thought to myself, we have got to get serious about what we are doing here and make some changes. And so I started really just trying to listen to what was inside of me, not just be reactive and pay attention to everything that was going on around me, but really I started really paying attention to my thoughts. And I remember this room that I was staying in, and this drawer was a Bible. And so I just kept having this thought to grab that Bible and start reading it. And so it was a King James Version Bible, and I started reading it. It was a lot of begotten going on. If you ever open up the Bible, in the first, the book, there's a lot of begotten, and so-and-so and begot so-and-so, and then, they didn't have children is what that is, And I was like, I know there's a story of Moses in here. I done seen the 10 Commandments, I know there's a story of Noah, there's a flood and a ark, and I didn't quite get to all that, but at that time, but I kept reading and kept having this feeling, and so I started to pray. I really didn't know what I was really, really doing officially, but I was just going again by what I felt inside, And every time that I would read, I just had this sense like everything was going to be okay. Just keep doing what I was doing. So, I ended up going down to the welfare office, and I remember standing in those lines with everybody up in there, and just the way that those people treated you. It was almost as if you were asking them for their money, and it was just a time where I just, had to bite the bullet and, just say, look, whatever. I got to be here for 3 hours. I'll be here for 3 hours. Whatever I need to do so I can get the help and hurry the heck on with this program so I could get up off of it, because I definitely wasn't trying to be a part of this system, And so I went through all that, and I remember sitting in this house and thinking to myself, I'd been praying and just was like, I don't want to be here no more. I want to make enough money so I can get my own place, and I just want different, but I don't want somebody else's different. I want my own different. I want to be able to do what's good and right and the best for me and this little honey bear that I had in my tummy, I wanted to provide everything that was not provided for me, And so I remember sitting and watching a commercial, and there was this commercial to order the Book of Mormon. And I didn't know too much about that stuff. I just knew what I felt when I was watching that commercial. And it had a number on there for you to call. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and then call this number. I'm going to order that book. I feel like, I need to read. I want to read that. So I ordered the book, and they were on the phone, and said, hey, would you like the missionaries to come? And I thought to myself, like, yeah, that might be cool, But then I thought to myself, nah, not to this house. For safety for them, for these missionaries. Because I knew this home wasn't of good, and I wouldn't want, if you didn't know what's up, this is not the place you want to be, and you definitely don't want to be a stranger knocking at this door, and so I declined at that time, but I tell you, I couldn't put that book down. I was like, yo, then this was going right along with the Bible. I was like, between the Bible and the Book of Mormon, I was like, yo, this is some good stuff right here. And I was like sharing it with people, and they looking at me like I'm crazy, you know. And I was like, whatever, y'all. I'm on a mission to do better for myself and my baby, you know. And I'm going into the unknown. It's like you're stepping your foot in a dark room, and then as you step into that room, then it lightens up. But it's only lightened up right where you're at, you know. It's not like the whole room lit up, you know. And so anyways, you just know that, okay, this is good. I'm gonna keep doing this. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit, then I ended up going to a junior or an adult school where I got my high school diploma, and it's in the high school diploma equivalency is what it really is. It was where you got the GED plus 3 classes, and I had an option to do just the GED, but at that time it was kind of presented in a way that, you know, that people would look down at you for just having a GED. So I was like, well, you know, let me get whatever I can get to give myself a real opportunity to move forward and not let somebody judge me for where I've come from, you know, to think that I didn't have the potential to do the best, because I might be the best person you would want to hire, but you're not going to, because you're going to assume that GED is lesser than, you know. So I said, screw that. Give me those 3 extra classes and I'll take that GED. And while in the class, you know, preparing for these studies, I started realizing like, yo, I'm not really a dummy. You know, I actually kind of like this. Now, I didn't like reading, don't get me wrong. So I had to struggle a little bit about that. But I really pushed myself. And times when I didn't feel like it, I was like, look, I'm not paying that any mind. I'm doing what I got to do. And I really worked on changing my perspective. I have to say prayer and the scriptures, you know, really helped me with that. Kind of get out of my way, you know. And then I ended up talking to a representative from the junior college about taking some courses. And I remember my friends at the time around me were doing vocational schooling, which is cool, you know. But again, listening to what was inside of me, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something. What do I really want to do? You know, I'm 17 years old. I'm like, shoot, why not figure out what you really want to do? Forget the fact that where you've come from and the fact that you might have missed all this time, and, you know, forget that. The man asked you, what would you want to do with your life? Okay, cool. I'm going to answer the question. Really think about it, you know? So I thought about it, and it took me a few days, but I was like, you know, I love the body. I love to learn how it works and what's going on with it. And at that time, I thought to be a physical therapist, because I thought to help people, you know, when people got aches and pains and the body ain't working right, what you could do for it. You know, that's some cool stuff right there. So I registered at Mesa College, and I was in the courses. I ended up having an interesting adventure in my first semesters at Mesa College. I didn't do too hot, honestly. You know, I wasn't too hipped on the syllabus. You know, nobody's going to tell you that those assignments are ready, kind of thing, you know. And I ended up failing my first few courses, but then I started realizing, like, look, they're going to take your money and you're not going to be able to get a degree. You're basically wasting your time, and you got to owe all this money back, and you don't have a degree, and you lost all this time, and you're still where you started. So, I mean, what was the purpose of that, right? So I started really getting serious about it. And I remember in some of my courses, you know, I was straight coming from the hood in a sense, you know, and you know, basically a child raising herself on the streets. And now I'm in a junior college, and I'm, you know, participating, because again, you know, I want to learn this stuff, right? And so the way that I was explaining things, you know, if there was a question asked and I was answering the question, they didn't quite understand what I meant, you know, because I was using a lot of slang. I wasn't communicating what they were in a way or a language that they were used to. And it definitely was English, but, you know, they didn't understand what I was saying. So anyway, I got shut down a lot. I got, you know, what you would call hated on. You know, I got people who just didn't understand where I was coming from. And I honestly, through a couple comments that were made, it was very shocking, because they would look at me, and this is, you know, I'm assuming the white girl, and based on what was told to me, Oh, you just a white girl. And when you open your mouth, it's just different. I look at you, I assume one thing, but as soon as you open your mouth, that's a whole nother thing, and so that was a common, thread throughout, just through what was kind of brought up several times throughout this time period, and I thought to myself, well, first of all, I am who I am, right? But let me try to better myself. And something that I want to contribute to my mom, that, she was huge on grammar and language, and huge on making sure that you are educated and you take time to get as much knowledge as possible, because knowledge is what separates people. And I remember these things. And even though she succumbed to drug abuse, or, becoming addicted to drugs, she just was an amazing woman that always had words of wisdom. And amongst the craziness, I decided to get rid of the bad stuff, that it didn't, do me any benefit. And it was just a side effect of what she was struggling with. And I know she didn't mean to pass that on or cause me any pain. So I decided to, leave that where that belonged back then, and take all the valuable things that she taught me and really hold dear to those things, so that I would really be able to have an opportunity to be successful in my life. And so I started taking college serious. I ended up getting married. During the marriage, it was an abusive marriage, which, here comes the cycle of patterns that you listen to and you hear about. If you're in a cycle of abuse and all these other patterns, it's hard to break those cycles, right? So I started really paying attention, went through a couple craziness, decided in a crazy way to divorce this guy. Family was involved, abuse was involved. There was a whole lot of hot mess going on with that one. And I really realized that, wow, life is really what you make it. You can't control other people. You can only control yourself.